0847 hours local time. The Caribbean Sea off Venezuela's northern coast. Wind is light. Visibility extends past 15 nautical miles. And the USS Ronald Reagan, a Nimitz-class supercarrier displacing 100,000 tons, maintains steady course at 12 knots through international waters. The ship's in /SPS. 49 air search radar sweeps the horizon in methodical rotation. Inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, watch officers monitor displays showing routine surface traffic, fishing vessels, commercial tankers, the usual pattern for this transit corridor. Then, at 0851, the pattern changes. 9 surface contacts appear on radar simultaneously. Bearing 095, range 18 nautical miles. The returns are small, fast-moving, and they're not following merchant traffic lanes. The tactical action officer leans forward. 9 contacts, all accelerating, all converging on an intercept course for the carrier strike group. The geometry is unmistakable. This is not coincidence. This is deliberate. The contacts resolve as Venezuelan naval patrol craft, Constitution-class and Guaycamacuto-class gunboats, each displacing roughly 170 tons, capable of speeds exceeding 30 knots. They're armed with 76mm guns, anti-aircraft weapons, and in some cases anti-ship missiles. Small vessels by naval standards, but heavily armed for their size. And they're moving in formation. At 0854, the Reagan's commanding officer arrives on the bridge. The briefing is concise. 9 Venezuelan gunboats. Range now 15 nautical miles and closing. No radio communication attempted. Course suggests intent to intercept. The captain's response is measured. Maintain present course and speed. Alert the strike group. Prepare aviation assets. What happens next becomes a textbook case in maritime standoff doctrine, but not in the way Venezuela's naval command expects. Inside the Reagan's Air Operations Center, order moves through established protocols. 2F divided by -18E Super Hornets are repositioned to Alert 5 status on the catapults. An MH-60 or Seahawk helicopter crew begins pre-flight checks. No weapons are armed. No fire control radars activated. The preparations are visible, deliberate, and calculated to be observed. At 0858, Venezuelan formation course again. Range 12 nautical miles. The 9 gunboats spread into a wide arc, creating a semicircular geometry designed to bracket the carrier's projected path. This is a classic interception pattern, the kind taught in naval academies worldwide. The intent is clear: establish presence, force course alteration, demonstrate territorial assertion. The Reagan does not alter course. From the bridge wing, the Venezuelan vessels are now visible as dark shapes against the horizon. Their wakes are pronounced, white water trails marking aggressive maneuvering. No communication comes over international maritime frequencies. No hails on bridge-to-bridge channels. Just 9 ships closing the distance in coordinated silence. At 0902, range drops to 9 nautical miles. The carrier's phalanx close-in weapon systems remain in standby mode. The 5-inch guns on accompanying destroyers USS Porter and USS James E. Williams track the contacts passively. No targeting radars active. The strike group maintained formation integrity. Speed unchanged. Course unchanged. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical picture updates every 12 seconds. The Venezuelan gunboats are now clearly executing a blocking maneuver, attempting to position themselves across the Reagan's bow. The nearest contact, a Constitution-class vessel, is on course to reach a closest point of approach of less than 2 nautical miles within 8 minutes. The rules of engagement are explicit. International waters. No hostile act observed. No weapons trained. No justification for defensive action. But also no legal requirement to yield passage. At 0905, the captain issues a single order: launch the Seahawk. The MH-60 are lifts from the deck at 0907. Rotors biting air. Climbing to 800 feet and banking toward the Venezuelan formation. The helicopter carries no ordnance, only sensor packages and door-mounted cameras. Its mission is presence, not force. The message is clear: you are observed. You are documented. Every maneuver is recorded. Range to nearest gunboat, 6 nautical miles. The Venezuelan formation does not slow. If anything, they accelerate. At 0909, the lead gunboat crosses into 5 nautical miles range. The Seahawk orbits at 1,200 feet. Its electro-optical sensors lock on the entire formation. From this altitude, the helicopter crew has clear visual on all 9 vessels. Gun mounts are manned. Radar systems are active, but no weapons are trained on the carrier. Not yet. The Reagan's air boss coordinates with the catapult crews. At 0911, the first Super Hornet launches. The F/A-18 climbs deeply, afterburners igniting twin columns of thrust visible for miles. It circles at 8,000 feet, well above the Venezuelan vessels, making slow, deliberate orbits. The second Super Hornet launches 90 seconds later. Now the tactical picture shifts. 9 gunboats attempting to block a carrier. 1 helicopter directly overhead documenting every movement. 2 strike fighters circling at altitude. The Venezuelan vessels are no longer executing an interception. They are being surrounded by a surveillance envelope they cannot escape. At 0914, the nearest gunboat reaches 3 nautical miles. This is the outer boundary of what naval doctrine considers close-quarters maneuvering. The Venezuelan captain must decide: continue the intercept and risk collision, or break off and concede the challenge. The Reagan maintains course. Speed unchanged, bearing unchanged. Inside the Combat Information Center, the watch officers track the geometry with clinical precision. Closest point of approach is now calculated at 1.8 nautical miles, occurring at approximately 0922 hours. The Venezuelan vessel would have to veer off before then, or deliberately maneuver into the carrier's path. One is seamanship, the other is aggression. At 0916, the Venezuelan gunboat reduces speed. The change is subtle but unmistakable on radar. From 32 knots to 28 knots, then 24 knots. The vessel's bow wake diminishes. The Super Hornets continue their overhead pattern. The Seahawk maintains station, cameras recording continuously. The entire encounter is being documented in high-definition clarity. Timestamps, positions, maneuvers, all preserved for after-action analysis and intelligence. Distribution. This is not about firepower. It is about discipline. And discipline is what separates coastal assertion from blue water dominance. At 0918, the second gunboat in the Venezuelan formation also reduces speed. Then the third. The arc formation begins to loosen, gaps widening between vessels. What was cohesive interception geometry is becoming dispersed presence. The shift is gradual but deliberate. The Venezuelan commanders are recalculating. Range to nearest contact, 2.4 nautical miles. The Reagan passes a calculated intercept point at 0921. No collision, no course alteration. The carrier maintains its track through international waters, as if the 9 gunboats were navigational hazards marked on charts. Obstacles to be noted, documented, and passed. From the bridge wing, the nearest Venezuelan vessel is now clearly visible without magnification. A Constitution-class patrol boat. Hull number visible on the bow. Gun mount man but not trained on the carrier. The crew on deck are watching the Reagan pass. Massive gray wall of steel cutting through water with mechanical inevitability. At 0924, the Venezuelan formation begins to break apart. 3 vessels peel off to starboard, maintaining parallel course but increasing separation. for more reduced speed further, falling behind the carrier's stern. The final two maintain their arc positions but make no further attempt to close distance. The tactical action officer updates the captain. Venezuelan contacts no longer on intercept courses. Formation dispersing. Threat assessment downgraded from aggressive posturing to passive observation. The captain's response is economical. Maintain current posture. Keep aviation assets overhead for another 20 minutes. Document everything. At 0928, range of the nearest gunboat has opened to 3.5 nautical miles and increasing. The Venezuelan vessels are now following the carrier's strike group rather than attempting to block it. The power dynamic has inverted completely. What began as an interception has become an escort, uninvited, ineffective, and thoroughly documented. The Seahawk remains overhead, sensors active until 0947. By the time it returns to the Reagan's deck, the Venezuelan formation is scattered across 8 nautical miles of ocean, cohesion lost, tactical purpose abandoned. The Super Hornets recover at 0952 and 0955, respectively, by 1,000 hours. The USS Ronald Reagan is 22 nautical miles past the intercept point. Course unchanged. Speed unchanged. Not a single round fired. Not a single weapon arm beyond standby status. Inside the Combat Information Center, the after-action documentation is already underway. Video footage from the Seahawk. Radar tracks showing the complete tactical progression. Communications logs, or rather, the notable absence of communications from the Venezuelan side. Timestamps, positions, maneuvers, everything preserved for analysis. The encounter will be briefed to the Chief of Naval Operations within hours. It will be analyzed at the Naval War College. It will become a case study in presence operations and how carrier strike groups operate in contested waters without escalation, without provocation, but also without compromise. For the Venezuelan Navy, the outcome is less satisfying. 9 gunboats attempted to assert territorial claim in international waters. They were observed, documented, and ultimately bypassed by a force that never acknowledged the challenge as legitimate. No confrontation occurred because the United States Navy refused to recognize the Venezuelan maneuver as worthy of confrontation. This is the essence of naval supremacy in the 21st century, not the willingness to use force, but the capacity to make force irrelevant through superior discipline, technology, and operational tempo. The Reagan could have responded with overwhelming firepower. Instead, it responded with overwhelming presence. Helicopters, fighters, sensors, all broadcasting a single message. You are seen. You are recorded. You are not a threat. The geopolitical implications ripple outward from the single encounter. Venezuela demonstrates capability to mobilize 9 vessels in coordinated action, but also reveals inability to sustain tactical pressure against a professional blue water navy. Regional partners observe the outcome. Allied nations note the restraint. Potential adversaries study the methodology. At 1,030 hours, the Reagan Strike Group resumes normal operations. Training exercises continue. Flight operations maintain tempo. The Caribbean transit proceeds as scheduled. The 9 Venezuelan gunboats are now 35 nautical miles astern. Radar contacts fading into the general surface traffic clutter. No shots fired. No international incident. No diplomatic protest. Just 9 vessels that attempted interception and discovered the difference between coastal assertion and carrier strike group reality. The Reagan's deck log records the encounter in clinical prose. 0847 to 1000, 9 Venezuelan naval vessels observed on intercept course. Vessels maneuvered to blocking positions. Strike group maintained course and speed. Venezuelan vessels broke off engagement without incident. No hostile action taken by either party. 37 words to describe what becomes a defining moment in Caribbean maritime relations. 37 words that obscure the calculated escalation, the censored documentation, the aviation response, the disciplined refusal to acknowledge the legitimacy of the challenge. This is how modern naval power operates, not through confrontation, but through the quiet certainty that confrontation would be one-sided, not through aggression, but through the institutional confidence that aggression is unnecessary. The Venezuelan gunboat captains returned to port with nothing to report, except that the American carrier passed through. Their superior's file reports describing successful monitoring of foreign naval movements. The propaganda value is minimal. The tactical reality is documented in high-definition clarity aboard the Reagan servers. And 22 nautical miles north of the encounter site, the USS Ronald Reagan continues its transit, a floating city of 5,000 personnel, 90 aircraft, defensive systems that track hundreds of targets simultaneously, propulsion that can sustain 30-knot speeds indefinitely. 9 gunboats attempted to block that reality. Reality did not alter course.